and welcome to another episode of the Digital Access Show. Today's guest is a friend of mine, Brett O'Connor. Brett is the founder of the Inception Network. Now, Brett's got a lot of great knowledge to part today because of the work that he's done over the last 20, 30 years. And welcome, Brett. Thank you for being on our show.
Thanks, Narelle. It's good to see you. I know that's probably ironic, but this is where I've been, running businesses. I had my first business when I was 21, which was a cafe in a food court at Westfield in Sydney.
Yep.
I got into franchising and all of this sort of stuff. So I've always been in training and business
Mm.
consulting for like the last 30 years. But probably the last 10 years, I've actually gone into the formal system and actually developing training content, doing diploma, back in the old vet help days and all of this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Got into compliance with that as well. And then Inception was actually started up to start up businesses, but also to create training content for simulated businesses as well. And what I started up is local home and garden repairs. We did such a good job of creating a simulated business that it's now turned into, we've gone out into the marketplace and local governments and all of this sort of stuff said, do you realize this would be the perfect thing to service the My Care at Home network and older homeowners? This is where it comes into, well, how have I been able to do that? Because, well, I've been teaching these formal qualifications, not just to, people that are in business or they've got the skills already. We're talking about, I create courses not for everyone, but for everyone else. So
Mm.
people with a disability, people that, don't fit into the course, people that haven't studied for 20, 30 years, all of this sort of thing, over 60s, teach
Yeah.
them how to do Facebook management. So what I say is when you create courses for people that don't fit into a box, you come to the realization that there is no box except for what we make of it. And this
Uh,
is where it comes into what I'm finding and why we're here today
yeah.
is we're talking about that what reasonable adjustments RTOs can make in the qualification system.
Mm.
But because the technology is freely available and all the accessibility technology already exists, there's absolutely no reason why all of the students they can't implement it into their training and assessment resources because it doesn't cost the students anything extra
And
to
that's
actually
that's
use it.
it. That's
Mm.
it, Brett. I mean, it is such an easy thing to do. And what Brett's talking about with reasonable adjustment, as he says, RTOs, which is a registered training organisations here in Australia. So take Queensland, there's private RTOs, universities, I think they're in it. Anyone where there's some form of training is registered as an RTO here in Australia. So, Brett, when you say reasonable adjustments, what type of things would come in as a reasonable adjustment?
Well, if you look up the training and assessment training package, which the
Mm.
certificate for in training and assessment, which
Yep,
we're in the process of changing over to a new one. It's just been reviewed.
yep,
Most people, and including yourself, are doing the one that was developed in 2016. The
yes.
new one, which comes in December, you can no longer deliver the old one anymore. It's got a lot of these digital units and all this sort of thing, and it incorporates that into the training. Now,
Hmm.
when they release these training products, is what they call it, and it is a product, not a
Yep.
service. So under the
Mm.
ACCC, it meets all the
Hmm.
same rules as a product.
Yes.
They release a companion volume which describes and
Mm.
defines things like terms like reasonable adjustment. So a
Yep.
reasonable adjustment is, as stated in the Disability Discrimination Act, um, what a business what's reasonable for a business to do to overcome a particular disability. Now, it's a recognized disability, which could be things like autism and this sort of ADHD and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Mental
But
health isn't considered.
that's right.
Yep.
Anxiety is considered a recognized disability.
Yep.
Burnout is
Hmm.
another one, recognized by the World Health Organization.
Yep.
So all of these things, it's like fear can be something which prevents you from doing something, but it can also save your life. It
Mm.
depends on whether you're triggered or you're glimmered, whether you've
Yep.
got a negative or a positive contingency plan, which is a different part of the brain and the fight, flight, or freeze response.
Yep.
And this is where it comes into with a reasonable adjustment. It's for people that can't just change the way they think. They don't have the neuroplasticity. So this is where a reasonable adjustment is only for something which is basically based on a condition that can't be improved through training. If you go blind, then you shouldn't have to, change the content or have a special cohort for that, because if they're signing people up and they're blind with a disability, which is a recognised
Mm.
disability, and there's accessibility checkers and all this sort of thing, they have under the ACCC, if they sign you up and the standards for RTO say that you have to develop training content that's suitable for that training cohort. So
Yeah.
they then have to make the adjustment, and they can't say it's financial hardship because if they say that yes, we're accessible, and you find out that it's not, then you can actually, or they don't make what's called a reasonable adjustment, or they say, oh no, we can't do that because of financial hardship.
Mm.
Basically, anything that is paid for under the NDIS isn't, you can't use the rule, it's financial hardship, so we
Mm.
can't do it. You just have to not accept that person into your course if you're not set up to accommodate that disability.
Doesn't that become discrimination?
Um, it's not discrimination. It's
Okay.
if you don't have a lift installed in your building,
Yep.
then you can't
Yep.
employ someone with a wheelchair.
Got
Um,
it. Understand. Yeah.
it's just that's
Yeah.
when it's an unreasonable adjustment to say, I want to work for you. You need to put in a lift because that
Yep.
causes financial hardship on the business. So that's a reason why when you go to the Discrimination Commission or the people that
Yeah.
look
Human
after
Rights
that,
Commission. Yep.
yeah, they're going to say, well, this is going to cause financial hardship. So, no, we're not going
Yep.
to tell them to give you a job because they can't install a lift.
Yeah.
So, this is where a lot of the things with the NDIS is coming in. But it
Mm.
just comes down to, again, for everything that is a good thing, there's always someone who's going to rot the system and there's going to be
Yeah.
problems with that. And the training
So
industry is no different.
different. So what in the training industry, say, okay, I've signed up for the TAE course. What is a reasonable adjustment for me? What would
Well,
you consider? For
this is
those
where
that don't know, I actually have a severe vision impairment. So yeah.
yeah. So, this is where you've got a severe vision impairment, but you're not totally blind from birth, which is why
Mm.
you've been able to, your trainers have done a wonderful job and been able to get
They
you
have.
through all but I think two of the units now. You're up to
I'm
doing
on
the,
the last unit now.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you're up to doing the practical assessment.
Mm.
But this is where it comes into how are you going to do that and how are they going to assess you?
Mm.
Is the issue now. So maybe they've come up against a wall where it's just physically the trainers can't get you through to the course without some sort of action, which take has come back to you, or
Yeah.
your RTO has come back to you,
Yeah.
and the directors have spoken to you, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we want to fix this,"
Yeah.
but at the same
So
time, too, this is what you do, so they should be paying you if you've identified this problem and they can't fix it themselves, they should be paying you or paying another professional to fix this problem. And this is because, like I said, you're a consumer and you have
mm.
consumer rights, even though it's a fee-free course. The government is still paying them to deliver this course to you. So it's
Mm.
not a free course, but even if an RTO was doing free training with you and it was a defective product, you would still have the consumer rights to get them to repair that
Yeah.
defective product.
They should all be accessible
Hmm.
from the start, shouldn't they?
Well, there's a standard, I think it's standard 5.1, which says that before enrollment or training commences, then students have to be properly informed as to what
Mm.
they need to do, or what the RTO can do and the
Yeah.
capabilities of the RTO and what they need to do to get through.
Mm.
There's also another one that says that a trainer or assessor or anyone that works for the RTO, including marketing people, can't tell you that you can get through a course in a manner that's not stated in what they call their training and assessment strategy, which is
Okay.
what standard 1.1 to 1.3, which
Mhm.
outlines all of the resources and that they have and all this sort of thing. And it would say in there that that their LMS is accessible for blind people. So
That's
this is
right.
where it comes into. But TAFE is employing consultants that are telling them that yes, it's accessible, but it's not until a blind person actually comes through and someone from any cohort, someone with a disability or something like that comes
Mm.
through, this is when the RTO finds out that whether or not that they can actually, you know, live up to the standards. And it's not like it's a matter of calling their bluff. It's
Mm.
just they genuinely believe that they can get you through. Um, but this is where it comes into it depends on the capabilities of the trainers more so than the
Mm.
RTO themselves.
That people test, they've got a screen reader, they know how to use it, but because you've got sight, there's that
Mm,
unconscious, and it is unconscious. They really do mean well, but there's an unconscious, oh yeah, okay, we know it's over there, so we just go tab, tab, we're going to go back one, yeah, we can get to it. And
mm,
it's not that they mean anything wrong, they don't. The
mm.
problem is they're not living it.
And I have because I've been doing SEO for years. But I'm building basic websites without the plugins, and this is where I've gone back to web developers and I've said, so why aren't you turning this stuff on? And they go, oh, we can do that. It's just that customers don't request it. Well, yeah, this is it. And they say that there's not it's not that they don't have the money to do it, they don't have the money to change it because they've
Mm.
already spent the money on this stuff. A lot of the stuff that they recommend that is a reasonable adjustment, the Disability Discrimination Act, I think it's Section 6, doesn't
Mhm.
say what a reasonable adjustment
No.
is, just says what it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, so why doesn't it do that? Because technology has changed so much that it's no longer a lot of the stuff that gets suggested to me by RTOs. It's not. It's already there. It's already in the package. We should
Mm.
already be doing it. But
Yeah.
because there's a 2 year teach out period for the cert for TA and qualifications, this is where this was written 2 years ago.
Mm.
A lot of the technology when this qualification came into
Yeah.
effect,
It's gone.
it's we've got new generations of
Mm.
technology now, particularly after COVID and this sort of stuff.
And
So
this is it. People don't know what they don't know. And I think that's what we're saying, really, isn't it? Because, if you've not been trained in it,
mm,
I mean, to my mind, universities, RTOs, TAFEs, education systems, this should be part of the digital accessibility should be part of web development training, IT training, business training, anything where there's digital content, they should be trained in what good document structure is,
yeah,
what good digital accessibility is, and really how simple it is.
well
Because the moment
they
they've done that,
yeah, they are, but it's at Cert 3 level, which this is where you can't get vet student loan. As people
hmm,
want to go for the diploma.
yeah,
But they miss the stuff at Cert 3 and Cert 4. It's not Bloom's taxonomy isn't a logical progression. It's
yeah,
using different thinking, and then you get into uni, and it's all about analysis, synthesis, and
yeah,
creation. So that's
yeah,
why they call it higher education because it's a higher
yeah,
level of thinking.
yeah,
But you can go to uni and learn all this sort of stuff, but you've still got to come down to vet and do a vet course to learn how to apply it because vet's all about
exactly.
basically stops about application thinking because it's what is the application of this theory in the workplace,
Yes,
and this is what
yeah,
we're struggling with at the moment. But if the
yeah,
trainers and assessors don't know this stuff, so if your trainers and assessors don't know, they don't know what they don't know, they're trusting the people that are developing this
yeah,
tool,
that's it.
then
That's it exactly.
we're going to get what we've always got.
Yeah, that's it. So, Brett, what I always ask for a couple of takeaways from
Hmm.
our guests. What takeaways can you give to the
I would
trainers, to the students?
I would say to the students, there's two things that stick out for me in regards to instructional design.
Yeah.
And it's not the 80 system or it's not preferential learning styles.
Mm.
It's a thing called the 70-20-10 principle, which is 10% of your knowledge comes through learning,
Yep.
formal learning. Okay. 20% of your knowledge comes from coaching and mentoring.
Yep.
You know, 70% of your knowledge comes from actually doing it. So as
Yes.
you get the confidence to do it and you go there, that's when you're going to get the 70% of your learning. So don't
Mm.
expect you're going to get everything that you need to know to do it. You're not going to go out, you're not going to learn 70% of your knowledge until you go out there and don't be afraid to fail. You're not
Mm.
failing. The only way to truly fail is to do nothing.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the format instructional design model, which, like Simon Sinek, starts with why, but
Hmm.
then it's what to do. And this is also how business consultants put value on the IP. When you know why you want to do it, it's relevant to you. Then you
Yeah.
work out what to do. And when it's relevant to you, then you work out, well, how can I do it? And
Yeah.
that's when they go into a training course. Then it comes down to, well, what if it doesn't work for me? Then how do I adapt it?
Mm.
Okay, which is what I've just described there is the unit of competency.
Yes.
The outline is the why. The
Yeah.
what you do is in the descriptor and the
Yeah.
performance criteria. Okay,
Mm.
how you do it is the knowledge evidence,
Yes.
and the what if is the performance evidence. What if
Mm.
what if you get given this situation? What are you going to do? And that's what
Yeah.
the summative assessment is based on. These are the training models that L&D and businesses use for their own
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah.
So, it's the education sector needs to learn from them, but the hardest people in the world to educate are educators. And it's not until it makes it relevant to them. And unfortunately, AI is not going to take your job. People that use AI will,
Mm.
but that's the stage that we're at with the education system. They can't prevent it. And a lot of the accessibility tools are being used by AI, but we still need to teach people the basics of accessibility and what the problems are and why they do it, because now they're not going to know how to make it accessible, so they can't adapt their system that they paid to get set up
Yeah.
if they don't make it accessible, or they don't know how to make it accessible in
Yeah.
the first place. So it's going to cost them money.
That's it. Brett, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I hope that people listening have found it useful. How can people get in contact with you, Brett?
Well, I'd say jump on the website, inception.net.au. So that's for the Inception Network Australia. Oh, sorry, this
Yep.
side,
Yeah.
because we don't have time to go back to basics in training. I want to know what you can do for me, or how we can work
Yeah.
together, and I can find someone else to do whatever you can't do, because our network's, you know,
That's
25,000
it.
businesses just with the
Yeah.
business jobs expos alone. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks again, Brett. So this is Brett O'Connor from the Inception Network. And as you've obviously realised, Brett's been in the education, training, vet industry for many years. He's got the knowledge and he's a good guy to talk to. So this is, I'm not sure what episode of the Digital Access Show. I've lost count. We just keep churning them out. And if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, share, review, let people know about it, because seriously, it really comes down to accessibility plus usability. So, accessibility of the information plus usability of the tools that are the information's on, whether it's a website or a digital document or whatever, that they need to be user friendly, plus understanding. And understanding's the language you use, the level of language, the type of words, all of them together are going to give you better communication. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.